When you are creating this story in your mind that hasn't happened yet, your cortisol levels start to rise.
This is G. Mantra Estelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 245, originally aired November 2nd, 2016. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we're going to have a conversation about the phrase what if and how sometimes we use it and it actually can create more stress in our life, not just emotionally, but physically, and how we can transform that phrase and use it in a different way while we are tapping, which will move us to a positive disposition. Before we jump in, I wanted to remind you that we have an absolutely free guide, 10 parts to help you to eliminate self-sabotage. There's audios, there's videos, there's tap-alongs, there's instruction. Absolutely free. Just go to tappingqa.com. If you happen to be listening to this in the website, if you just slide up on the right-hand corner there, you will see a link for it. Also, I'll put a link in the show notes. It's absolutely free. You get a piece every few days, so I'm not overwhelming you with information. So there's something that you can use right away. The other thing is there is a change that is being made to the Tapping Q&A app. If you go to the Google Music Store, Google Play Store, or if you go into iTunes, you can add it to any of your mobile devices, in addition to giving you access to all of the audios and the entire archive of the Tapping Q&A podcast. And we're closing in on 310 of those audios. I'm also going back in and I'm adding extra posts where I have the scripts from the tap along audios. So not only will you now have access to the audios in the app, but you'll also have the script. So if you want to read it at your own pace, it will be in there as well. If you have the app open, you'll see that you can look at all audio. If you click on the link for text, it's going to give you the ones that are in there. There's only a couple there right now. But over the next couple of weeks, every few days, I'm going to keep adding them, and they'll just be back there in the archive matching up with the audio. So that's absolutely free. You can download the app by going to tappingqandapodcast.com. On the podcast today, I have a conversation with Julie Schiffman. She's been a guest before. I love chatting with Julie. Today is something super useful and super practical. She calls it what if tapping. And this is a tool that I find particularly useful when I am facing an issue that feels so big that it doesn't feel like I'm going to be able to make progress at all. I receive lots of emails from folks like you saying, I love tapping. I had this huge amount of success at the beginning, and now it feels like I've hit a brick wall. And subconsciously, if we do not think that it is possible for us to transform, then we're going to sabotage ourselves from trying to transform because we don't want to be wasting our time and we don't want to be wasting our energy. In this conversation, Julie shares a really simple tool to get around that. And not only does she give explanation, but she also gives a quick demonstration. One last thing before we jump into that. The podcast is sponsored by Pain Relief Miracle. Pain Relief Miracle is an all-natural spray that you can use for cuts, bruises, scrapes, sunburns. Because it is all-natural, it is perfect for your pets. As I was sitting down to record today, I haven't injured myself in an entire week, so I have not pulled it out of my medicine cabinet, but it is in my medicine cabinet when I do something dumb. It should be in yours. Go to tappingqanda.com/pain or click in the link in the show notes to receive 33% off of your first order. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Julie about what if tapping. When we were having a conversation ahead of time about topics, you said, I'd love to talk about this idea of what if tapping. For you, what is what if tapping? What do you define that as? Where did it come from? How do you use it?
I love what if tapping. So what if tapping is basically the same as regular tapping in that the points are still the same and the end result can really be mind-blowing. However, it helps to really get you more focused on changing your negative and worrisome vibe with some really positive, upbeat statements that can not only turn around the moment, but I think it can really turn around your outlook and experiences in life, generally speaking. You see, we have this inner dialogue that is seemingly never ending, right? We just have this voice in our head that just keeps going. And this inner commentary tends to create problems at times that are not even problems. And we all have this. And we tend to start all sorts of statements without even recognizing it at times with, what if? And these are the things that, they haven't even happened yet. Things that could happen tomorrow or next week or next year. And listening to these unreal problems is what we call worrying. And it can really be agonizing. And this type of tapping can help to not only help to quiet the mind, but it can help to give different options for a different and a more positive outcome.
I think that's really interesting what you've pointed out there, this idea that we're already doing what ifs all of the time, that we're treating them as if it is true. This could go wrong. That could go wrong. I'm doing this contingency planning, but our natural predilection towards fear to keep ourselves safe, it's a very primitive sense, is just constantly doing all that time. Well, what if this happens? How do I respond? What if that happens? How do I respond? And from the negative point of view, the thing that makes us unique is I can worry about two contradictory things simultaneously as if both of them are true. And it would be impossible for both of them to play out. But in my mind, I'm going, well, what if A happens and what if B happens? And I'm going to emotionally respond to both of them simultaneously. And so it sounds like what you're doing is you're trying to get a hold of that natural disposition and spin it into a positive direction so we can use that same idea to turn things around.
Exactly.
And so then how does it work differently or practically when we're using it? I guess conceptually I see what's going on. What does it look like in practice? So
as I mentioned, the tapping points can really stay the same, right? I mean, we're really just still tapping. And to be perfectly honest, you can do this even not tapping. But of course, we love tapping. So why not do it while you're tapping? So you can really use it for anything. What this is really about is about changing your intention or your outlook about a situation, your health, your life. So imagine for a moment that you are worried about something. It can be anything. What if tapping can work for physical symptoms? It can work for emotional stress, abundance issues, quieting the chatter in your mind. It works for just about any situation. But let's use worrying as an example, as this is what typically leads to what if statements, right? Because we're worried about the future. Some statements along these lines might sound something like this, and these are just examples, but we do this all day long. So what if something goes wrong today? What if I bomb that speech that I have this afternoon? What if the medical tests come back positive? What if I can't pay the bills this month? What if I never get better? What if he or she is mad at me because I just said da-da-da-da-da? What if I miss my train this morning? So you get the gist of it, And so now, with this sort of tapping, we can actually choose the ending to what our statements are. And when tapping like this, it actually gives us the power to decide the ending of that statement instead of just throwing it out there. And our minds are endless in terms of the creativity we come up with. And a lot of times it's very negative. And so since the outcome hasn't even occurred yet, why go the negative route? When we engage in the negative, it makes us more anxious. It makes us more stressed, more agitated, because we make up these stories in our head that, again, don't exist. It's the what ifs. And when we engage in the negative, our body responds immediately. So you may find when you start going off on this tangent of what if I miss my train this morning, or what if I get in trouble with my boss, your heart might start pumping with anxiety. You may start sweating. You may get a lump in your throat. You might get a pit in your stomach. Or you might just feel like you want to burst out in tears and start crying. And ultimately, what's happening is that when you are creating this story in your mind that hasn't happened yet, your cortisol levels start to rise. And now you're under all this significant stress. And when you stop for just a second and think about it, and you realize, wait a second, this hasn't even happened yet. But now my body is under total stress. And for what? Right? We've just created this big story that hasn't even occurred. So we can say instead, what if I get all the answers that I need at the doctor, today to move forward? Or what if everything works out really well for me today? Or what if I can totally relax about this? What if I'm getting better and better each and every day? What if my body is more powerful than I ever imagined? Or if we're worried about, perfectionism, this is also great for perfectionism, but a statement like, what if just getting this job done is way more important than getting it done perfectly, and so on.
And it's interesting, just as you say those statements, and I'm just listening to them, I immediately feel myself filling in all of the details of the positive consequences of those statements. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like I've asked this question, well, what if this happens? Well, my body goes, well, if this positive thing happens, then A, B, C, D, E are the outcomes. And so it immediately feels like it's more than just, well, what if this worked out well? I'm actually feel myself filling in those gaps and painting that picture. And even though you're not talking about things that I'm specifically dealing with right now, I could feel myself relaxing as you were doing that. And my subconscious mind was completing those statements out.
That's what's so amazing about it is, people tend to go to that place of negative, right? Because they need to make sure they've planned everything out. They need to be in that place of making sure that they have everything taken care of just in case something goes wrong. It's almost human nature. It's how we're programmed. And so the beautiful thing about what if tapping is that you can write it out however you want to. It's like writing your own story. Really, it is. It's like my story, my ending. I get to choose how the rest of this day is gonna carry on.
And what I think is interesting with that is sometimes there can be resistance to making statements about this is what my future looks like. As if I'm reaching too far and I'm not worthy. Like there's these resistance that I might not feel like I'm worthy of having success in a particular way. And by adding this idea of, well, what if this happened? I'm not overstepping what part of my resistance thinks I'm worthy of. I'm just pondering it as a question. Well, what if this happened? So I'm not claiming it. And I could see that as being another way that allows us to gently approach a positive outcome that we might not be willing to accept as possible.
Absolutely. We're just creating in our minds something different. It's like drawing a picture on a piece of paper where you might not know where that picture is going. You just decide to start doodling and suddenly you have this great picture in front of you. And it creates these good feelings, right? And again, I love the what if statement, as you were just saying, because it just creates sort of this wonderment, like, what if? It's not as though, sometimes with tapping, we'll say things like, I am choosing this and I'm choosing that. I'm choosing to have a great day today. I am choosing to speak up for myself and I'm choosing to be confident. And all those things are great. I'm not suggesting they're not, but as you said, sometimes we have those tail enders, but I can't feel confident today. I'm feeling shaky, or, it's like we've suddenly set out this statement that now we have to live it out today. And the what if just creates sort of this wonderment, like, well, what if I feel confident today? Or what if this all works out okay? What if my speech goes beautifully today? What if I feel great and have a ton of energy? So then you're just kind of in this place of, you just sort of wonder, what if? And just creating that what if statement, as you said, you could create anything. And it just creates this like nice, peaceful or excited feeling without feeling like I have to achieve this goal today.
So we've circled it around a little bit with some of the examples that you've given, but practically for yourself, when you're doing this on your own or you're working with your clients, when are you specifically reaching for this tool to do this type of tapping?
Well, I like the strategy when it comes to the way that we view a problem or a challenge that's coming up in our lives. It's just another strategy to seeing a problem a little bit differently. When we see a problem through the same eyes, through the same lens as we always see it, it becomes difficult to see a different outcome. So you probably know, we have about 70,000 thoughts per day, and 40,000 of these thoughts are repetitive. And what if we were to come up with different thoughts for ourselves? It can change the entire trajectory for the entire day, your week, or I think even your life, if you keep it this way. So if you can see different possibilities for an outcome, you're more than likely to get rid of these old patterns. And so I think it's best to use this when you find we have to be in that place of understanding our thoughts or realizing that we're in this place of this, right? Sometimes we can go all day. It's just an annoying habit to have our voice running in our mind about all the what ifs. So you have to be in a place of being willing to sort of stop for a second and say, okay, wait, stop here. What am I doing here? I'm coming up with all these statements that are just creating a lot of worry for me, creating sleepless nights even. And so it's really, when you notice you're in this place, that's when you say, okay, stop. And you sort of move forward with, okay, how do I really want this to turn out? And, you can use it for anything. As I said, you can use it for worrying about something. You can even use it for pain in your body. You can use it for beliefs, all of that. So you can really use it for anything and everything. You just have to notice that you are in that pattern right at the moment so that you can stop it and then, move forward with it. If you want to do what if tapping and just say, you know what, I'm going to do some what if tapping right now. You can begin with, okay, what are the things that I'm worrying about? What are the things that are going on in my mind for me right now that I want to sort of spin around to make it look a little different?
So could you just maybe lead us through a quick round of tapping or two to demonstrate what it might look like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's do some tapping for worrying, because that tends to be really where these what if statements, I think, come in most handy. So if you'll just be my echo,
absolutely.
I'm going to start tapping on the side of the hand. And I'm going to have you say, even though I have all this stress and anxiety, I tend to get into what if thinking. It helps me to be prepared for everything. I honor and accept myself. Even though I'm a worrier. And I am in what if mode. I love and accept myself. Even though I like to be in control at all times. It makes me feel better to plan for the worst. With my what if thinking. I love and accept myself. I'm open to letting go. And believing all is well. And we're just going to tap through the points. I'm in what if mode. All the what ifs. I can think of a million things that can go wrong. I need to be prepared and think of everything. Even the things that seem so irrational. What if something bad happens? What if I make a mistake? What if I get hurt? What if the doctor says it's bad news? What if I offended that person I was just talking to? What if they're mad at me? What if I get hurt? What if someone I love gets sick? All this fear and anxiety. These are the things that haven't happened. There's all this negative energy around these thoughts. It's making me so stressed out. It makes me scared. And sad. That I get so wrapped up in this thinking. I'm open to seeing this differently. Thinking about my situation. I can play this what if game all I want. But I get to choose the outcome. What if this all works out okay? What if I'm safe? What if I can relax about this? What if my body is perfectly healthy? What if this day is amazing? What if everything falls into place for me? What if I just open up my heart? What if I have a really positive outlook today? What if I can feel good all day long? What if I feel loved and nurtured all day today? What if this is easier than I thought it would be? What if there's nothing to be afraid of? What if I can handle anything that comes my way? What if something amazing is about to happen? What if I can decide that all is well in this moment? Because it is. Take a big deep breath in and out.
So one of the things that I really appreciate about what we just did there is in the beginning, as you were dealing with all of the worry, negative what if parts, is you honored the fact it was trying to keep us safe and healthy. And so it's not that it is the enemy that we're having these sort of negative thoughts. It's simply the acknowledgement that it's thinking too much and it's thinking too hard. And because that's the case, then we're no longer in conflict with our system. We're just simply saying, hey, it would be great if my system acted in a different way, and I'm going to create the space to allow that to happen.
Exactly.
The other thing that I really like about it is it's so simple and easy. Like, this is not a super sophisticated technique or tactic that once you have your idea and your head wrapped around this, it becomes pretty straightforward to be able to step into this and try this and do this with whatever issue that is arising in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Julie, I really appreciate you sharing this with us today.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. I love it. It's great. It's a great, it's just a great different way to look at things. Thank you as always for having me.
So that is a super straightforward approach that you can use with tapping. If you want to go back and tap along to what we tapped on there, I found that super powerful as we were doing it. And I really enjoyed it as I was going back and re-editing the episode that I tapped along to it again. If you'd like more information on Julie, all you need to do is go to tappingqandapodcast.com, click on the link for episode 245. Not only can you find this interview, but stuff that we've done in the past. If you happen to be listening to this right now in the website for episode 245, if you look below all of Julie's bio information, you'll see a little player that includes all of the episodes that we have done in the past with Julie. Make sure you download the app, tappingqandapodcast.com. Like I said, in addition to all of the audios from the entire history of the show, you're going to start getting text versions of all the tapping scripts so that you can just have access to them and you can tap along to them even when you can't listen to the audio. It's a super quick way to find relief. It's free. It'll be in your pocket. You'll have access to it whenever you need it. Don't forget the 33% discount off of Pain Relief Miracle, tappingqanda.com/pain. Click in the show notes. You can also click in the show notes for our free 10-part guide on using tapping and EFT to eliminate self-sabotage. You can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, over in the Google Music Play Store. We are still the #1 EFT podcast in the Google Music Play Store because we are still the only EFT podcast in the Google Play Music Store. We're #1. If you have a question, if you have a comment, you can always reach me, Gene, Gene, at tappingqanda.com. If you're in the app, just click on the contact button. You can shoot me an email or leave me a voicemail from right inside of the app. If you're on the website, just up above, you'll see there's a little contact button in the menu bar. I get all of those emails. I love hearing from you. It helps me to decide what we need to be doing on the show in the future. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli or Tapping Q&A.